afternoon, everybody. My name's Fiona Elliott. I'm from Elio Moon Arts. Today I'm going to be creating this project for Couture Creations. This will be a paint along with me today. So we're going to be using alcohol inks. This is my picture that I've drawn. I've left a couple of details out which I need to put in here. I'm going to put those in, the window panes in. Okay, so this is what we're going to be painting today. Some of the colours that I've chosen and the things that we're going to be using will be Couture Creations alcohol inks. You can do yours in whatever colours you would like to. I'm not going to tell you to do the same colours as me because you may not like those colours. So I'm going to try, I've got ruby, I've got amber, I've got pewter, I've got wine, sienna and botanical. I've also got mulberry and grape sitting here as well, just in case I want to use those. I've got some isopropyl alcohol. Now the reason I'm using isopropyl alcohol is because I want to be able to dilute the colour down. Excuse me, you'll have to forgive my voice at the moment. I'm still sick from 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying to get well again at the moment, but I'm feeling much better than what I was, so I thought I'd drop in and do this today. So I'm just going to try and move this down so that you can actually see what it is I'm drawing, what I've drawn. So let's see if I can close this. Oh, that might be better. Okay, is that a bit better? That might be a bit better for you to see. So it's just some houses in a, probably in a village somewhere in probably England. It's just the type of building that I decided that I was going to do today. Just straighten this up a bit. Okay, that looks a bit better. Okay, so I'm going to start off with doing this first building here. It's going to have red trim on it, and it's going to be a yellow building. So I'm just going to grab a paintbrush. This one is very hard to see what the size of this one is. It's a size 7, it says. That's a very small 7. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of this wine, I think, on this one. And I'm just going to pop that down on my mat. And I want this colour to be a little bit concentrated, so I'm just going to put this on the roof line here. I'll move this around as we make sure I'm back in the frame for you. Just going to grab one of these little ramekins. I'm just going to put a little bit of alcohol in it so I can dip my brush in. That's better. Just helps to move the ink and it will dilute the colour down a little bit because I don't want it too bright. This is more of a cloudy type of day, type of scene. A bit like it's been here in Queensland recently. So that's on that one. I'm going to do the same on this one here. Do a little bit of this above the door here. Oh, excuse me. Now, if you're wanting to get something smooth when you're working with alcohol inks, you need to have alcohol down, a fair bit of alcohol down, and try not to play with it too much, and that'll help to give you a, whenever it's wet, it'll give you a smoother a smoother surface. So show you what I mean when we start doing this bigger area. So I'm just going to pop some of this amber down now. Put a bit more alcohol in my little pot. Dip my brush in, make sure it's got no red left on it. Tap into this amber colour. And I'm just going to dip into my alcohol. And I am being a little careful about where I'm putting it. So I'm not putting it close to the edge until I know that it's not going to move too far. So this is quite smooth at the moment because there's a lot of alcohol sitting on the page. I mean, you'll never get it 100% smooth without sort of blending it all properly. But then you'll lose the effect of what alcohol inks do. So just by adding that little bit of, I'm just tidying up those edges, add some more alcohol in here. And I'm only doing it while it's all wet. I don't want it to dry until I've finished actually covering this area in. I'm just adding a little bit underneath this eave because I want there to be a little bit of shadow. I'll add a little bit more underneath this window here of the concentrated colour because there should be a little bit of a shadow there as well. Underneath this one, a little shadow on this side. It should be quite heavily shadowed there too. Okay. So I'm just going to tidy up this edge over here. I'm just pushing the ink back on it. I've just got some isopropyl on my brush and nothing else, and I'm just pushing that off to the side just to straighten up that line. See, I need a little bit more red in here because the yellow come over, which is perfectly fine. We can do that. Just adding a little bit of red to my brush. Not too much, and I don't have a lot of alcohol on my brush either. So today you'll also see my setup. I've actually got 2 glass mats and I've joined them together to give me a bigger working area. So now I'm just going to tidy up this one here where it's come over into the red. Alcohol inks are so forgiving in terms of that you can actually just go over things. Whatever colour's on top is going to be the most predominant one. So I've just re-smoothed those back out. Those brushes over there. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this back up the right way again, or right way for me. And then I'm going to come down and do this doorway and this part of the house here. This part here is going to be in much more shadow because it's shadowed from this building behind it. And it's shadowed from the front doorway here because it sits back a bit. So I'm going to want it to be a little darker than the one that was up, the other part of the house that was up there. There. Okay. Okay. A little darker. Get some shadows underneath the windowsill. Along this side. Along here. Be a bit darker over here. Okay, so now we're going to, I want this next bit to be a little lighter again because we're coming down into this part of the house here where the sun would be hitting the front of the house. Just going to take that around the top there. Just going to use some of this red again, this wine. Put that in the things on the door. And then we'll use a bit of sienna on the door after that to create the timber look. I'm hoping I've kept this in frame for you all. Okay, so I'm just going to, yep, you can see that, that's good. And I'm just going to give this a little bit of red across here on this little leaf piece. As you can see, I don't have a lot of alcohol on my brush at all, or a lot of ink, it's just a tiny little bit. Okay, now I'm just going to grab some sienna, drop it over here. I'm not going to rinse my brush out, but I will add a little bit of alcohol to my brush, and then I'm going to grab the sienna, and I'm just going to do this door. And as you can see, I don't have a lot of the sienna on the brush, it's just a very small amount, just enough to colour the door. So it doesn't look stark white anymore. Okay, so that's nearly the first one of our buildings done. I'm just going to clean off my brush a bit, a little bit more alcohol into my container. And I'm thinking that on these internal, I might do some red on these top pieces here on the windows, just so it makes it all look like it's the one building. So there's a little bit of alcohol on there. And now for the top one. Okay. Okay, so there's nearly our first little house done. Just going to use a little bit more of that sienna, and I'm just going to put it on this chimney. And we'll come back and do a little bit of mark making over the top of that later on. Okay, so my next house I think I'm going to do is a green. So I've got some Couture Creations Botanical, which is what I'm going to use in this instance. But I don't want this a real dark green. I'm thinking I'm going to dilute it down with some alcohol on my brush. I'm going to do these really lovely soft colours. And all I'm doing is adding a little bit of alcohol to this ink so that we do get those really nice soft colours. I want it a little bit darker at the top here where it comes underneath this eave, and there'll be a little bit of cast shadow on this side from this other piece of the house that's over here. I'm going to lighten this up and come up this side. Okay, now we're up to doing the roofs. What am I going to do around the windows on this one? I might mix a little bit of this yellow and the red together to make like an orange. An orangier colour. Let's see how this goes. I'll put this around the window frame. I might just use a little bit of this yellow in this window. Yeah. Got a little man sitting in that window. A little bit of the green just to fill in that spot there. Okay, so I'm just going to tip this out of the way so I can reach, and I'm not coming across the screen at you. Just make sure I'm back in frame. Okay, so now we're going to do the roof on this one. So we might go with this yellowy orangey colour that we made before on our roof. So there's the roof on this one. Now this roof line here, this one here, I'm going to go in with a little bit of that sienna. I'm just going to colour that on there while I'm at it, and I'm going to do the chimney as well. A little bit of that's gone outside where I want it to be, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of alcohol on my brush and just push that back. Okay. Oh, I missed a rooftop. I need this little rooftop done too. So we're going to go back to that orangey yellowy colour. Do this one here. There we go. I'm just tidying up these edges, just pushing that ink back down into the spot where I want it to be. Okay, start back up this way again. Now, this next house. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stick with that greeny sort of a colour, but what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of yellow to it just to lighten it even further. Yeah, that's maybe a little bit more green in that. That's better. So we've got this really mustardy type of green colour. Greeny yellow. grab a little bit of this sienna again and do this roof. A little darker underneath that roof line there. Put it on this bit. Okay, I'm just going to alcohol on my brush and I'm just going to push that all the way back up into the spot where I want it. Okay. Come back to our yellowy green. Okay, I think I'm going to grab a little bit of this grape. This is Couture Creations alcohol ink, and it's grape, this colour. Just going to pot a drop of that down. I'm going to wet my brush, dab it off a little bit, and then just pick up a tiny amount of that purple. Just going to put it around this door. This little green place is going to have a purple door on it. And purple trim up around the windows. Okay, and I'm going to do these in a deeper purple. And just do the doorknob. There we go. I'll make this one a little darker. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to put some more alcohol into my little dish, rinse out my brush. And my last house, I'm going to do in pewter. So this is that pewter colour. So it's a beautiful grey. Beautiful soft grey. So I'm going to turn my painting back upside down again. So I'll start at the top. Okay, make sure you can see. Okay, move that back here a bit. Okay, so let's start with, no, we're not going to start with the body of the I'm going to start with the roof line. So this one we're going to give, where's our sienna? I'm going to give our sienna another go and give it a nice sienna roof type. A bit more alcohol in this. So when I add the alcohol, it actually thins down the paint, or thins down the ink, and it allows it to sit a bit smoother on the page. Same with this one, I'm just smoothing it out. And because it's very wet at the moment, just lifting off any excess that I've got there. And it'll just dilute the colour a little bit. I don't want really harsh lines, so I'm just lifting off that ink from the edge. A bit more of the sienna and bring it up into the chimney. Okay, so now I'm wanting to use the sienna quite with not much alcohol on it at all, so that I can get a stronger colour around the eaves on this building. I'll take it down here. Okay, I'll turn this around again, and hopefully I'm in the frame still. Yep. Just going to bring that across, and I'm just going to tidy up this one here as well. Now I'm just going to do this little roof here. Okay. So our next colour is this pewter, which is a beautiful soft grey. So we're going to use that. It's going to... I love this colour actually. It's really, really pretty. It's almost like it's just a whisper of a colour. It's just lovely. Add a little bit more alcohol to this just to smooth it all out. So I can work with it while it's nice and wet. There we go. Beautiful. And add a bit more of the grey over this side. It'll have a bit of shadow from that eave, and also from the house beside it. Not so much on this side. And we'll just smooth that out a little bit. Okay, so I think with this house, I think I'm going to go with some bright red. So this is ruby. I'm just going to put a couple of drops down. We're going to have some red casement windows. Just that big pop of colour. Same with this window here. Give it a nice big pop of red. this door is going to be mostly red. A little bit more of that grey up in here. I missed a spot. Now I'm just going to mix a little bit of that grey with the red, which is our ruby, and I'm going to use that on the shapes inside the door here. Just tidying that up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to grab a little bit of grey and a little bit of red, and I'm going to mix them together. Okay, a little bit of yellow. I'm just picking up a little bit of this yellow, the amber, and I'm just going to put it in this little light that's up there. I don't mind if it sort of comes outside of there a little bit. Makes it look like the light's on inside. And I might do the same with grabbing some of this yellow and just giving it a little bit of a glow in these windows. Okay, now we're going to work on our fence. So the fence I'm actually going to do in pewter, and I'm going to use the pewter, and I'm going to use some sienna. We've got a little bit of sienna here. I'm just going to mix the colours together a little bit. Now I want this to be a bit of a whispery sort of a colour. I don't want too much colour in it. I don't want it to be too dark. I don't want it to be too light either. So these are our fence palings. Now when I've drawn this out, I've only used just a normal HB pencil onto the Yupo paper. So there's nothing special about what I've done here. It's just a bit of just a grey lead pencil. And I normally wouldn't do it this dark, but because it would be so much harder for you guys to see it if I didn't, I thought it was best if I done it a little darker for this demonstration. So there we go, got part of our fence done. Got to do our steps too, so I'll get through to doing that shortly. So I'm just going to add some we're just getting our fence done. I mean, ultimately we could have left this fence just in a white if we wanted to, but I think it looks better with a bit of the colour going through it. Just seems to tie it all together a bit better. Okay. A little bit more darkness here. Darkness on this one. I'm just adding a little bit of darker colour just where the openings are on the gates. A bit of darkness on this one. And I'm not worried if this one's not quite smooth. I actually want a little bit of texture, so you can see me going back over that now with the brush is actually really dry, and it's almost just like giving it a bit of dry brushing effect on there, so it just sort of leaves little bits of ink on my page, but just one little bit at a time, and it gives it that sort of bit more mottledy effect, and it also makes it more natural looking because it's not I'm not controlling how it's going on. The ink's actually doing it all on its own. So this one's dry brushing again, just to give the bit of texture on the fence. And that's just, the brush is nearly dry. It's just got the slightest little bit of ink and a bit of alcohol on it. And there we go, we get that slightly darker effect. Might add a little bit more of it onto this one. A few areas. A bit on this one. Okay, so we're just going to go back into that botanical now, and just going to mix a little bit of the isopropyl alcohol with it. So Couture Creations also have their own bottle of isopropyl alcohol, very reasonably priced. Most, I'd say anybody that stocks alcohol inks will has the Couture Creations range will probably have their isopropyl alcohol as well. And I'm sure if you asked your stockists of Couture Creations products, they would be happy to get the isopropyl in for you. It's actually a really good one. I have brought stuff from Bunnings before, but I don't really like their one. I just find this one much better. So now we're just giving a little bit of greenery, so it looks like there's a bit of grass on the ground here. And I'm going to have to go and find my black in a minute. I might even do a bit of a sparkly black. And I'm going to do these steps that we've got here as well. So there's a little bit of grass out the front. Just might dilute that a bit. So I've just got the lightest little bit on my brush, and I'm just sort of diluting it. So it's just leaving just a bare minimum of colour at this very bottom piece here. And just creating a few harder lines as I go along. You see these harder lines forming. Just so it creates a bit of a boundary from where the grass is and where the street is. I'm just going to add a little bit of that grey that we were using before, and I want to give that a little bit of that dry brushed look. So that's got the very minimalist amount of alcohol on it, and then a tiny little bit of the ink. And this one's probably a little bit wet still. Sometimes you can leave it to, I'm going to put some on that pathway there, up to this step here. Okay, so let me just find this black. So I have these, I'll just move this out the way for 2 seconds. So I have these Couture Creations caddies, which are for alcohol inks. I love them. I take them everywhere with me. They're very versatile. Now, I've just got to find my black. Look. So we've got alcohol ink, Glitter Accents Onyx. So we're going to use that. We're going to give these steps on this place a little bit of a sparkle. Okay, so I'll bring this back into place. So we're going to do these steps here. Oh, I'm just going to put down a little bit. Better give that a good shake first, otherwise you won't get any glitter in it at all. So these have a little ball in them. You need to give them a really good shake. Excuse me, I just dropped that. Back in 2 seconds. Okay, I'll have to get it later. I don't know where it's gone to. So I'm just going to use this little bit that I've put down here before. So this is the base of the steps. It's a bit dark. It's going to dilute that a little bit. Okay, so now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come back in and lift out some of that. So it looks like we've got steps. Some places we'll have to add a little bit more. Gone too far over. Okay, let's turn that around. I need to push that ink back out of there and back over to here. This is this line of our treads on the stairs. Just move that back over here. Make sure you guys can see. Yep. Okay. Okay, so now we've got our stairs leading up to our front veranda, or the front of our house. I do need to add a little bit of that green, that greeny yellow that we had back in to here. Okay, so that's it. I think we're just about done. Oops, no, not quite. Let's look at our tree and our, okay, so we've got our wires that come across. So I'm just going to grab a good amount of this black onyx glitter accent onto my brush. And I'm going to do a little circle here where these attach to the house. There's another one here. And I'm just going to bring just using the very tip of my brush, going to bring it across. You could also do this with a pen, which may give you a slightly thinner cable result, but that's up to you which result you're after. And I'm going to darken this piece here, which is the little cable that it attaches to. And it comes down the side of this house here. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this around. It might be easier if I'm not having to reach so far. So the next one is this one here. One that comes across here. If you have a liner brush that you use for alcohol inks, that would be perfect to use in this situation. Just going to do a little bit of more black, a bit more of a line there, and then Now, I also want to add a little bit of this black to the tops of our chimneys on these pieces here. Okay. I'm thinking I might like to put a little bit of sky in on this one as well. So I might grab, I might use the pewter, and I might add a little bit of blue to it to give it a more blue-grey kind of look. I'm going to use a little bit of sailboat blue. I think ocean's another colour that is a bit similar, so I'm just going to put a drop of that down. A little bit of my pewter, another drop, couple of drops of the pewter down. I'm going to mix the two of them together with a little bit of alcohol. Yeah, nice. I'm just going to turn this around. And we're going to, I'm also going to add quite a lot of alcohol into this as we go, because I don't want it too dark a grey, the sky, but I do want the sky to be a little bit greyer. Mainly because we're here and it's winter here where I am at the moment, so here in the supposed sunny Queensland, which since February this year we have not had a lot of sun. We've had a lot of rain, and this winter has been very cold. In the area that I live in, it does get cold here in winter sometimes, but this has been brutal. I'm dreading the thought of my power bill this year for my winter session. It's going to be a little bit on the high side, I'm going to say. Okay. And this tree that we've got there, I'm going to get a pen and I'm going to put that in with pen. I was going to use the brush, but I think it just makes it easier for everybody if I do it with pen. It's not a hard thing to do. Sorry I have to keep turning this around, but I have to be able to reach it. So as I do this, if there's any parts of the lines that we put in for our antennas and electricity coming across to these little houses, if there's any of that that's not quite right, I'm just tidying up the line by pushing the alcohol along and just thinning the line down a little bit and pushing it on itself. Just mixing that in there. And you'll get these natural texture lines by doing this as well. It's just the way that the alcohol inks work. So I'm just tidying up these lines as I go across as well on the inside here. A little bit more. This one needs a fair bit of clean up. Got away from me a little bit, this line. Okay, now I'll push from this side. And see how that line is just now slowly starting to thin down, and it sort of fades into this the sky in the background as well. Just tidy it up a little bit more. Okay, I think that's us just about done. Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down one more time. I'm going to grab a small one I want. No, not that one. This one I'll do. This is a 0.005. It's a micron Pigma micron pen, and it's archival, so this won't come off. I'm just going to put some little lines on this tree, just so that we know that it's a tree. I'm going to do some branches. Okay, we're nearly there. Okay. Let's have another look at this. Is there anything else I need to fix up while I'm here? I can see that some of my sky has come into this roof line. So I'm just going to grab my paintbrush. Grab a little bit of that red, and I'll just fill that back in. And I'm going to do it all the way across, so that way I don't get those hard lines coming on there. Okay, so anywhere else? Nope, I think we're pretty good. Actually, there is something else we need to do. So I'm just going to grab some of this yellow, and I'm just going to put a bit of that yellow glow in these windows. I think I did it in the other ones and I forgot to do it on this one. Here we go. There is our cute little cityscape or suburbiascape that we've done today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Just a recap on the tools that we used. We used botanical, pewter, wine, ruby, amber, a little bit of grape and some sienna. These were all Couture Creations colours. You will find, if you go to find the Couture Creations website, I'm sure somebody from there would be able to give you some stockists that are close to where you live. I'm sure they would be happy to help you do that. I hope you've enjoyed this. We've also used some isopropyl alcohol in this, which I've just decanted into these little bottles so it makes it easier. A little bit of a little ramekin and a paintbrush. Some Yupo paper, and I actually drew my drawing out first, and I just used a, where is it? Just used a normal grey lead pencil. So something like this. It's the 2B that I used on this one. And then we went in and we painted all of our picture. I hope you've enjoyed this. I also use Couture Creations glass mats for ease of cleanup. Now I have 2 of them, which is fabulous, because I found one the other day at an op shop, so I thought, great, I'm going to have that. And so for cleanup, for me, it's just a matter of throwing a bit of isopropyl alcohol on my mat. I could actually use up that paint if I wanted to, but just to show you, be able to show you today. A little bit of a scrub, might need a little bit more on there because that was a glitter one. Let it sit for a second. Some of the glitter ones you do need to give a little bit more of a scrub or let it sit for a little longer. But there you go. My mat is beautiful and clean again. We also use Couture Creations Yupo Paper. I used the, which one did I use? So this is their adhesive paper. So this is the one that I used today. So this Yupo paper has like a solid, it's quite a firm sort of a paper. It's not very flimsy. And so it's designed so that you'll be able to stick this down onto a cradle board or an art board, whatever you like to call them. Yeah, and so this is our finished project. Time to sign it, and we'll go from there. Thanks very much, guys. Have a great day. Bye.